Welcome to the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for Thursday, February 24th. Over the last 2 weeks, we've had minimal precipitation across the Great Basin, but some areas that have seen above normal precipitation over the last week have been over the higher terrain of Utah, with lighter precipitation elsewhere. And over the last 14 days, again, it's just this area of Utah and parts of eastern Idaho that have seen near to just above normal precipitation, with well below normal precipitation in most other areas. The new snowfall over the last 72 hours has been most significant over the higher terrain of Utah, where we've seen in excess of about 8 to 12 inches in some areas. Also, we had some new snowfall up in the higher terrain of the Sierra, and then scattered lighter amounts across the higher terrain of the Great Basin. The snow depth is indicated on the right, and our snowpack is generally near normal in parts of central and southern Utah and up into central Idaho and parts of the Sierra, but is below normal elsewhere across the Great Basin, but is still not quite as low as what we have seen in years past, so we're still sitting generally better than about 60 to 70% of average. Looking at our satellite loop from this morning, high pressure is building off the west coast, but we have a weak upper level disturbance dropping south into Idaho, producing some clouds and light shower activity across Idaho and Wyoming today into far northern Utah. So later this afternoon, again, far up north is where we'll see any light precipitation and also some breezy winds, keeping our dispersion fairly good across northern Nevada and northern Utah into southern Idaho. Elsewhere, lighter winds and drier conditions and poor dispersion is expected. The gusty winds, again, as that main system drops down into Idaho today, we'll see gusty west to northwest winds around 30 miles per hour or so over the northern half of Nevada and to northern Utah, parts of Wyoming and Idaho, and mixing heights will remain low to moderate. As we move into Friday, this area of low pressure drops into the Rockies, so we will have some breezy northerly flow behind this area of low pressure over parts of southern Nevada into parts of Utah, keeping dispersion a little bit higher, but elsewhere we'll see lighter winds as that ridge builds into the west coast, across Idaho and western Nevada for poor dispersion. Again, those transport winds generally gusts in the 20s or around 30 miles per hour in the higher terrain of Utah into southern Nevada, with moderate mixing heights. However, further west and north, we will see much lower mixing heights and lighter winds. As we move into Saturday, that ridge of high pressure starts to build across the Great Basin. We will see drier and warmer conditions region-wide. Temperatures will start increasing to about 5 degrees or so above normal by the weekend and will continue increasing into early next week. Still some breezy winds down south as that area of low pressure drops into the southwest, but otherwise light winds and poor dispersion. And you can see those gusty winds in the far south as that system's track further south, and otherwise generally lighter winds, just some breezy winds around 25 miles per hour or so in the Snake River Plain. Mixing heights will generally remain low across the Great Basin. The forecast clearing index for Utah shows these similar trends, with higher clearing indices today in the higher terrain of central and southern Utah, and then diminishing somewhat on Friday and more so on Saturday as that ridge builds in with lighter winds. Very light showers are expected with this shortwave dropping south today and tomorrow, so only some light scattered precip over parts of northern Utah into Idaho and Wyoming and clipping northeast Nevada. As we move into the weekend, that ridge of high pressure continues to move eastward, keeping our temperatures above normal over the southern two-thirds of the Great Basin, with just weak systems clipping Idaho, bringing clouds and occasionally light shower activity. Otherwise, poor dispersion and lighter winds are expected in most areas. As we move into Monday, that ridge flattens over Nevada and Utah, with temperatures increasing to about 10 degrees or more in some areas above normal. Some breezy winds in the far south and far north will allow dispersion to improve, but for the most part, lighter winds under that ridge with poor dispersion, and we are expecting inversions to start increasing as we go towards the weekend into early next week under that ridge. On Tuesday, high pressure still dominates much of the southern half of the Great Basin, with these weaker systems skimming the northern parts of the basin, bringing clouds and occasional showers to Idaho. And by Wednesday, this trend continues, but we will have a slightly stronger trough moving into northern California, so it could push some clouds into western Nevada, as well as increase winds a little bit from western Nevada up into Idaho, with some light showers into Idaho. However, any precipitation will be fairly light and mostly tied to the higher terrain of central Idaho going into next week. The 8 to 14-day outlook, taking us from March 3rd through the 9th, shows cooler than normal conditions over the northern half of the Great Basin and above normal precipitation, mainly for the Rockies, but could clip parts of Idaho, Wyoming, and into northern Utah, with generally near normal or drier conditions for western areas of the Great Basin. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back on Monday for the latest updates.